Hi, my name is Arthur van der Wees. I'm the Managing Director of Arthur's Legal in Amsterdam. We're also a consortium partner of Concordia. Today we talk about regulatory affairs, which may sound boring, but it's actually pretty exciting. Because if you build, organize, manufacture, use, deploy, implement products, systems and services in this digital age that are trustworthy and can be trusted within the rule of law, you'll probably be quite successful, both within the EU as well as the capabilities of having a great export product globally. So where are the pains and the gains? Well, of course, in a short course like this, we can't tell everything, so we're going to touch on a couple of notions for you. First of all, the notion that digital used to be nice to have, and nowadays it's a need to have. It's almost impossible to communicate and engage in any market and sector without being connected or interconnected or sometimes even hyper-connected. So in the past, let's say the past 20 years, quite a few regulatory affairs, standards, policies were not up to the game yet. They were basically outstripped by technology and therefore, sort of not really relevant. So the only basic point was technology and technology companies versus or helping out society and people. Where, of course, once in a while there was a case, something went wrong, was a breach, security breach, or a data breach, or privacy breach, or just intentional or not. And there were, of course, cases about that. So basically, case law. A little bit further down the road, like 10 years ago, there was more focus on, okay, can we try to figure something out without regulation, but still some kind of organization of it. So with standards, certification, self-regulatory policies, and code of conducts. And as we see now in the current status, 2020, 2021, we see that it's getting towards more regulation, combination with certification and standards, where of course case law and those kind of things will continue to help out where necessary. All the way down in this visual, you see ethics and accountability, and the other course is about ethics and accountability. So please have a look at that one as well. So now we are in basically having a combination of all, focusing on more regulatory parts. And it sounds scary that you need to hire a law firm or an attorney at law. And I don't think we are an attorney at law. We don't think you necessarily need it. You should be able to think about these in a logical way and come up with your own ways of working and while being compliant to the 21st century rule of law. Because the rules, at least in the European Union, are becoming principle-based more and more. So no rule-based, yes, no, or binary, 1, 0, but it depends. There is room to maneuver, and the framework is about making informed decisions by design. Think about what can go wrong downstream. What kind of situations can we come into? Can we take appropriate measures already before it happens? And can we document it in a way that later on we can explain? And later on also we may be able to defend ourselves where necessary. And to do that, we can just take care and look into the technical stack to start with. And the technical stack in this visual, we have explained it before in another video, is very simple, but of course there are multiple layers that are applicable. In this case, network infrastructure and computing are in one stack, but actually you can also say there are at least 3. But just for the visual. The other one is the sensors and the devices, so interconnected, connected devices, as well as machines like cars or manufacturing on the road or in the farming domain. Moving on to the algorithms, and then the deployment of the algorithms in code, and then provided through either software or platforms. And then the last one, data. Data is all present and all over in all these kind of technical layers, and it's not about only the raw and unstructured data. It's also about the structured data, which is information. It's about the used information, which is knowledge, and it's also about experience. If you take it from the security perspective, you can also, of course, look in the technical layers and dimensions. Dimensions is a user because they're all there, and depending on what kind of persona the user has, can be a professional, can be a consumer, can be a vulnerable group of people. That really depends. Data center is also a dimension. And in this visual, the other four, application, device, network, and systems, are basically technical layers. So you can have that particular centric approach depending on where you are working and what you need to try to cater for within your work. If we make a very, it seems simple, but we made a comprehensive grid where we add the technical side on the security perspective and the relevant regulations. There are many more, but these are just a couple. On critical infrastructure, on cybersecurity certification, on non-personal data, on personal data, on payment services in financial services industry, product liability, which is all present as well, radio equipment. There are multiple radios in your devices back home, as well as in your office, as also the identity and authentication services, the eIDAS. So here you see a grid on which technical layers applicable, or the other way around. I'm doing systems, what is applicable here, or I'm doing data and what is applicable here. So this is a sort of a simple tool to try to identify where you need to think of and think about. And all these regulations you see here are very new. Most of them, the eIDAS is 2014. It will be revised. The other ones are all coming from 2018, 19, and even 2020. The nice thing again is that they are frameworks. So the frameworks can be loaded, and it's up to you and everybody to load it. Not only the technical side, engineering, security, consulting, implementation, use, lawyers, HR, end users, community, and society. No, it is really about everybody that needs to be part of this. But I think you and I can have a big role to play here to try to help load this, to see what works, what doesn't work, or where does it, is it not responsible anymore, and where is it outside the rule of law. To give an example, on the general data protection regulation on personal data, it's about the appropriate level of accountability you need to try to find, depending on context, depending on use, the user, the sort of data, the impact it can have if things go wrong, etc., etc. And we have another video about this, by the way, in this series. If you look at it from the technical perspective, these topics and these words you probably recognize if you are in security, same as we are. And these are principles that are all part of GDPR. And I'm not saying you need to have them all included, but try to find those that are relatively easy to implement. Try to think about those principles that are more difficult to implement but still feasible, and then which are totally unfeasible at this point of time. And why not document that? Why not make a couple of notes in what were your decisions to do it in this way and not in the other way? So later on you can improve it. Later on there may be a relatively commercially off-the-shelf simple measure, or later on perhaps you can code it yourself. Later on there's something affordable that you could put in, or your customer would like to have something expensive, and that's of course also then part of the offering. Why not? If you look at from the other side, and this can be either personal or non-personal data, very practical, load it in a practical way, upstream, all the way down, incoming data, throughput, so what you're processing yourself, and output. Probably not to one point, but multiple points. And just follow the data flow, and have it, visualize it, document it, and see whether it works, improve it, double loop, and make sure you are able to explain it to either internal organizations or customers or others. So again, the call for action is here. Don't be afraid about regulation. Help load it from the practical side, especially in cybersecurity. The malicious actors do not stop. They don't sleep. They are always changing their game every day. So it's up to you and me to help challenge them and challenge each other to come up to a high level of trust and a proper civilization and digital sovereignty. Thank you very much. See you next time.